Hey, Hillside. So it's day 2 of Foursquare's 21 days of fasting and prayer. And as I think about fasting and prayer, fasting, why do we do it? What's it all about? And right, the main idea is that we're fasting from food is the principal idea. And Louis kind of talked about it doesn't have to be that you're not doing any food at all for the whole 21 days. You could be giving up, one meal every day, setting that time aside to be with the Lord. And also I'd say that doesn't then just mean that you set that normal lunchtime aside and then, eat later right after, the same that you would. It's really doing without that and spending that time instead with the Lord. And why? I think, there's several reasons. One being, it's showing God that, prayer and fasting go together oftentimes. And a lot of times they talk about, in the Bible, you read about, pleading with the Lord and fasting and prayer, waiting for an answer for something. So it's showing God your level of devotion and desperation for this need. God, I'm not even going to eat. I just want to spend this time pleading with you for it. Two, from a human perspective, right? When we're hungry, it reminds us of our reliance on God and our need for Him, and saying, God, you're more important to me in my spiritual life than my physical needs. And my hunger is, I just want to be with you, and I need you. I actually was reading somewhere online. I thought this one was interesting. In that fasting state and that hunger, it roots out idols in us, right? It can show us, like, when I'm hungry, what am I turning to, or what comes out of my heart, or the things that I'm turning to distract myself rather than God, which is the purpose of this, right? To turn to God and to spend the time with Him. But what am I trying to distract myself with? Because those things could be idols in my life. And I'm in an interesting spot in this year for fasting and prayer, in that for health reasons, I can't fast from food. And so if you're in that situation, right, what can we do instead? And so thinking about that, how fasting kind of serves the purpose of rooting out idols. Well, we can look at our life and say, what are things that have become idols for me, or things that I'm like putting my identity in rather than in Christ, and how can I fast that thing instead? Because that, it creates a similar thing, and especially if it's something that you're putting your time into, because it's the same. I can set that time aside during this time specifically for the Lord and for prayer and fast. And when I'm fasting from that idol, I can devote that time to the prayer and to being with the Lord. And when your identity is challenged in that, giving up that thing that you had yourself rooted in, reminds you again, like that food, your reliance and your need for God, because you have to turn to Him instead and say, and you're relying on Him for the help and fulfilling that hole, which He's the only one that can fill anyway, right? So just some thoughts about this fasting and prayer and why we're doing it, and encouraging you to, maybe you can't give up food, or you just, whether it's for a health reason or because you just or there's no way I could do that. What's another way that you could still engage and practice this, and then maybe down the road, work up to actually fasting food in the traditional sense in fasting and prayer, but you can still practice this rhythm and work it into your spiritual life and as a spiritual discipline. So that is all I have for you today, and we'll see you next time, Hillside.